All right, folks, welcome. How are you guys doing? Who here is excited? Anyone? This is the hypnosis business method. If you came here for crochet knitting, that's next door. If you came here for the swimming pool, that's just outside. It'll be a lot of fun, but you might regret missing out what's going to happen in here. Before we start, I'd like to introduce you to Joe Holmes, my fellow co-presenter. You will come to know, love, and adore him, because one of the things that Joe and I are here to do over the next 5 days is, hopefully, to make you very rich. Does anyone want to be rich here? Now, this is not the lottery. This is not something that's just going to happen by itself. You do realize this, right? It's not like you just turn up, it's like, great, we've got the magic juju, and now we can hang on, head on back home. There is work involved. What we can do is shortcut as much of that work as possible. We can give you a roadmap, and we've got lots of maps for you to follow, right? But do realize that the work rests on your shoulders. Without that, then this is just a trivial little, seminar, maybe a little song and dance on stage, enjoy yourself, but you'd be better off on the beach outside. You know what I mean? I understand what I mean by that, right? So there's a couple of things to talk about before we do some logistics. Now, this is a very important thing, because if you want to be successful in this business, or actually in really this business method will work for most small businesses. It's actually a pretty universal process. But if you want to be successful, one of the simplest things you can do is cut out all those things that will be distracting you, that will suck up your energy. And I'll make you a warning, I'll make you a promise right now. And please, you may want to write this down, you may want to tattoo this on your eyelids, because it's important. There will come a point where you will be tempted by the newest little gimmick, the new little marketing fad, the new this, the new that, right? By all means, investigate it. By all means, put it in a folder on your laptop for someday to come back to and deal with properly. However, those of you who really want to make a success of this, who want to have the best chances of hitting a six-figure income, put those things to one side until you have mastered the fundamentals, the ones that will get you to that point. Once you've got everything automated, systemized, it's just running smoothly and so on, and now you want to stretch, you want to try some new things out, by all means, go for it. But in the beginning, less is more. And we have worked very hard. We spend the best side of 2 months getting rid of all those things that are going to distract you, going to suck up your energy, suck up your time, and not give you the rewards afterwards. And to just focus on those key pieces that are going to give you the path to success as quickly and efficiently as possible. It will still require effort, but a lot less effort, a lot less heartache, a lot less mistakes, a lot less money than, well, when I did it. It was not the happiest moment of my life. In fact, 5 years of complete chaos and confusion. If I can spare you that, I would be very happy to do that. Does that make sense to everyone here? Yes? So apologies for butting in there, but it was a pretty profound thing you were offering them there.
Thank you. So the other thing I want to talk about, another one, is in business, you need to have a high tolerance for ambiguity, for stuff that you don't know. And I remember being trained as a consultant. I was a management consultant before I was a hypnotherapist, which was like corporate therapy, but you just get paid really well for it. And one of the first things a senior consultant told me when I started was that it's okay to not know. It's okay to not know the answer to a question. But what you need to be able to say to somebody is, I don't know, but I can find out. So what you're here today and the rest of this week to do is to find out. You may not know everything yet. That's okay. You may know a lot. That's okay too. But when you find out the questions that you have, you'll be able to ask them to us. We'll be able to answer you, hopefully. And
or we'll know how to find out.
If we don't know, we'll tell you. We'll find out. So there's going to be a lot of questions that are going to come up. And you guys need to be comfortable with having some ambiguity there, not knowing exactly where things are going to lead. You can have a goal in mind. But as long as you know the next step, as long as you know, oh, I can do this next thing, that's all we're looking for.
So a corollary to that is you all have a vast different range of experiences. If you've seen, some of you have a lot of business experience already. How many people have almost none or zero? Yeah? Good for you, right? You just saved yourself a lot of hassle. Yeah? Hassle will come, I guarantee you, right? Heartaches will come along the way. I promise you this. You're not going to miss out on your fair share of problems. However, you will have a lot less than everyone else did. I can promise you that also, provided you're willing to follow the methods that we're going to present to you here. Now, especially those of you with less experience, but some of you with more experience, maybe in a similar boat, depending on the kind of experiences you've had, we're going to be sharing with you a lot of different tools that makes your life easier, things that you can use, that once you get to use them naturally. Let's put it this way. Anyone here know what an email is? Anyone? Yeah? Anyone know how to type a little email out and send it to a friend, right? Who here remembers, was that 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when email first started coming out? Who here remembers saying, what is this thing? It's a crazy machine. Oh, I don't know. I'll get a phone. Who needs anything but a phone? It just works anyway, right? Anyone feel that sort of sense of overwhelm when that first happened, right? I would like for you to remember that. And the reason for this, I will promise you, you will feel that again and again and again throughout this training. And you will feel that again and again and again when you leave this training. However, and this comes back to the tolerance of ambiguity here, what we're going to show you exactly how to interact with those tools, the fundamentals of it, so you can make them as simple and easy and as a no-brainer to use as emails are for you right now. And I invite you to remember just how frustrating that simple tool was 10 years ago. And now it's a breeze, isn't it? All the tools that we're going to present to you are just as simple and as easy as email to use. But they will require a learning curve. Some of you will pick it up like this, just in here. Some of you will get the overall, yeah, I get a sense of this, but you'll have to go home and then really think through it and just try it out and tinker. It may take you a day, it may take you 2 days, it may take you a whole week for a tool. That time will be very worth your while investing. Because when you have those tools lined up, the amount of time it saves you, the amount of hassle it saves you, is just immense. Does it kind of make sense to you guys? Yeah? So who is willing to go through an emotional roller coaster of frustration, not understanding, being ambiguous, but knowing at the other end of it, the tool is as simple as an email, so that eventually you will get it if you stick at it. Yes? I mean, this is not rocket science. This should make a lot of sense to you guys in terms of, I'm not here to sell you pie in the sky. I'm not telling you like, oh yes, we'll just do this and then brr, off you go. And you go, huh? I want you to succeed. And I want you to know what it takes to succeed. Would you like to know what the number one attitude, the number one mental skill will be that will separate those of you here who will succeed to get a high figure income or a decent six-figure income from those of you who maybe give up after 10 grand, if you even get to that point? Would you like to know the one thing that will separate those people? Yes?
Yes.
Perseverance. Can you stick to it? It comes back once again to the idea of ambiguity. You don't quite know what you're doing. Can you stick to it regardless? Can you kind of fumble your way through? Can you go off and maybe get a coach or watch a tutorial online? There's lots of these, by the way, and we'll show you where to find them as well. Can you stick to it long enough to master the tool, to master the method, and then it all becomes easy for you? Every single thing that you will learn here is absolutely easy. It's a no-brainer once you've mastered the tool. And along the way, you will want to add stuff to it to make it more complicated than it really is. I invite you to stop that. However, I understand that sometimes it's difficult to distinguish between, well, I don't really get this, I'm a little confused, and adding extra stuff that you're not really trying to achieve with it. However, if you stick with it, if you're willing to approach it from different directions until you finally master each individual tool, and you put them together in the very simple roadmap that we have designed for you, then as long as you live in a decent economy, North America, Europe, those sort of places, then there is no reason that I can think of why you would not make a decent 5 or 6 figure income. Does that make sense? Now, of course, I don't want to get arrested, so results do vary. You know what I mean by that, right? It depends on you as an individual, your willingness to learn, your willingness to invest your time, energy, and efforts, your local economy, and all those different things. But you have the opportunities. They're ripe and staring in the face. Joe or I could be dropped in any one of your cities and reach a decent 5 or 6 figure income, I know, probably within 6 months, probably less. It is possible, unless you live, in the middle of nowhere, 1,000 miles from the nearest chicken, right? I'm sure trees don't pay that well. But you get where I'm going with this, right?
Yeah, and I think you make an important point there. You said, we can drop in pretty much anywhere and make a successful business. But I don't want this stage to be a separation between us. I want to have that for you guys as well. So this week is about turning you into someone we can drop anywhere, anytime. Hopefully not like the medieval times or anything. But, anywhere in a decent economy and with a bit of hard work and a bit of luck, that you can have the same results. We desperately want those things for you. One of my missions as a hypnotherapist is to advance this profession into something where people come to a hypnotist or a hypnotherapist first. Something I see a lot in my practice is that people come to me as a last resort. They've tried everything else. And I know that I could have helped them 6 months ago, 10 years ago. And I'm sure you've seen that as well. Have you guys seen that before? Yeah. So wouldn't it be nice if our profession was well respected, was something that people thought of first? Well, in order to have that, the way that I'm going about it is by increasing the amount of business knowledge that you all have so that you can have successful businesses. You can keep doing this for a long, long time.
Where do you go when you have a toothache? Anyone? Dentist. Where do people go when they have a heartache? Yeah, dentist.
Yeah.
It should be to you. But people don't know this yet. Do you see where I'm going with this? They don't know this yet, and your job is to make sure they know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and you're it. Now, if they want to explore the maze first, by all means, let them do that. But the better you do your job as a business person, the less they have to suffer in the maze, and the quicker they can get to that light at the end of the tunnel. And that's one of the reasons why I'm really happy that Joe and I get to sit up here and have a chat with you guys and share these ideas with you. But once again, let me emphasize, it rests on your shoulders. You must do the work, and it will be work. Business owners, anyone here? Once again, hands up. It's work, isn't it? Right? It doesn't mean necessarily that it's hard work in the sense that it's heartbreaking work, that it's just like, suffering and you don't like it. You'll actually get to enjoy it once you know what you're doing. Would that be fair to say again, business people who know what they're doing, right? Once you have a sense of what you're doing, it's actually enjoyable work. It's just as enjoyable to run a business as to be the hypnotherapist doing the work inside your business. And the only reason it's not is because either you don't understand the business properly, or you've added something to the mix that doesn't belong into that. Does that make sense to everyone? And this takes me to a very important point here. As you know, all our trainings are adult learnings, right? That means, first of all, you do whatever you need to do to get the most out of this training. That means if you want to lie down in the back of the room and meditate on Zen whilst it all comes in your unconscious mind, by all means do so. I don't mind. Take your shoes off, wear your bathing costume, although that'd be a bit weird, but by all means do so, right? Take as many notes as you want. If you have laptops, go ahead and type away, right? Just respect the other people in the room. So if your learning style is to jump on the table and act like a monkey, that might be a little distracting for the others, right? Save that for the after show. But because this is adult learning, there are some things which I'm going to ask you to take responsibility for. The first thing is, this is a hypnotherapy business method. If you want to be a hypnotherapist, a coach, any kind of small business of that kind of nature, the method we're going to show you is going to work for that. However, we only have 5 days together. Isn't that fair to say? Right? I'm guessing you're not going to be here a month from now still, going like, come on, where's more? Why is no one in the room? I feel shortchanged. You have 5 days to get as much of that know-how into you as possible. So there are certain things we cannot take care of at the same time because there's just not enough time for it all, right? Here's the first thing that we cannot take care of. I'm going to assume you can already do this. And if you cannot, you are sitting in a room full of hypnotherapists. Find someone and sort it out, right? Offer them to pay the money as well. I mean, this is a business after all, right? So the first thing that I cannot do for you in this training, or Joe can't do for you, is we cannot fix your attitude. If you have some kind of problem with the idea of money, if you think it's dirty or evil, if you feel it's grubby to ask for money, that is something I cannot fix for you here. It is beyond the scope of this course. Does that make sense to everyone? There are plenty of people in this room who will help to help you through a, shall we say, negative mindset around money, right? And if you have that, if you've identified that about yourself, then please find someone you feel comfortable with and do that. It's an important point because if you start saying like, oh, I don't know, this is a little bad, no, we may well come back to you and say, well, this is an attitude issue here. This is not a skill issue. We're going to focus on the skill and understanding of the behaviors you need to get into to be successful. Does that make sense to everyone? So this is an agreement we can do up front, yes? Another thing, which is sort of related to this, is this is not the place, or rather, we are not the people in terms of this training to fix any problems you have with money. If you are in debt, if you have crazy spending habits, if you just have to see the word that starts with an S and rhymes with ale, and suddenly your credit card comes out and you start spending like crazy, once again, these are not problems we can fix for you. If money leaks out of you like a ship, right? With a leak ship, not the nice ones. That is once again something we cannot fix for you here. It's not that we can't do it, but there's not the time to do it for all of you guys. Once again, if you have that as an issue, find someone that is appropriate in this room, offer them some money, let the leak go in the direction that's actually useful, and fix that outside of the contours of this room. Does that make sense to you guys as well? Once again, is that an agreement we can make here? Number 3, a lot of you already have businesses. Some are doing pretty well, some are ailing a little bit, some really haven't got off the ground yet. Some of your businesses will be in a different field and you're trying to change across to hypnotherapy and so on. And I know it's a big mix, right? So once again, we're going to demonstrate to you, or we're going to teach you the business method that's going to be as efficient and effective as possible. Does this mean that things outside of the method we're going to show you aren't useful, aren't viable, aren't good? Not in the least. I strongly recommend that at some point you go down those routes and explore those other options also. But not when you're starting up your business. Because less is more. It's easy to get yourself streamlined and put all your attention on that 20% that will get you 80% of the results. Does that make sense to you guys? So this brings us to another thing that we can't do. We can't start fixing your business. If you say, oh, I tried this, or I tried that, and I tried the other, what do I do? This is not a business consultancy seminar. This is a business method seminar. So any questions you have about the method, we will happily answer until it's totally clear to you, 100%. However, if you start asking questions that go beyond the scope of the content of this business method, is it okay with you guys if we just say to you, look, that's something that goes beyond the scope of this, and if there is time during the break or something like that, we'll happily do our best to answer any questions. However, we will not do it here, because once again, it will be that 80% that distracts from the 20% that makes you successful in terms of this business. Does that make sense to you guys? So feel free to ask any questions you want. Just allow us to rebuff and say, that's not part of this method. It's a great idea. There's ways to fix that or ways to use that. But it's outside of the scope of what we're doing here. Once again, it's just a time issue. Otherwise, we would be here for literally a month, you know, investigating all the possibilities and so on. I mean, we would literally spend months, if not years, going through different business models and so on. That is not useful right now. What you need is a one simple, clear, proven, effective approach. Again, does that make sense to everyone? Yes? Is that an agreement we can make also? Yes? There's only about 3 of you said yes on that one. Is that an agreement we can make? Yes. Thank you.
So a point that I want to make that I don't want to slip by, Igor mentioned that there are a lot of people in this room that can help you with tons of stuff that we won't be able to address due to time here. And I think it's an important point to note that you all in here are a business community. You serve a larger community, but right now, you guys can help each other. We don't have to be in competition, even if you're in the same city, same, you know, next door to each other. For this week, we can suspend competition a little bit and we can help each other. Because I think as a industry, I think as a community, when we come together, we can make a lot of great things happen.
Can I just show you something very quickly based on that? This is how most people think about their business. Here's my pond, and I am this little fish in the pond, right?
So you guys can see it.
If another little fish comes into my pond, do you like my artwork? Nice. Now, we have 2 little fish in the same pond. There's less for us to eat. This is bad. If I could destroy this little fishy, then I'd rule this pond and I'd be king, right? Isn't that how a lot of people think about business? And they want to destroy the competition. They feel afraid about sharing ideas just in case they get less. That's a scarcity mentality. That's part of the attitude problem we already talked about, right? Let me show you how the world really works, especially with something like hypnotherapy, which is totally underdeveloped as a field. This may be the pond you're in right now. This is the pond you could be in. This is the potential that is totally unexplored because it's such a infant industry that we're in that it hasn't been mapped out properly. There's so many ineffective business people doing hypnotherapy that most of the potential, most of the pond that could be, doesn't even exist yet. Does that make sense to everyone? Now what happens when this little fishy comes into your pond is not that you have to fight for the same scraps. The very activities that you do to market and build your business and so on expands your pond. There is now more pond for the both of you. And when more fishes come, in fact, the more fish are here, the bigger and bigger your pond becomes. Admittedly, you're right. There comes a point where you max out in a particular environment, right? But you are so far from that right now. There is no place on earth that I know of where hypnotherapy is like the go-to thing that this has happened. I know of nowhere. Which means you are not in competition. Your activities in the same environment will increase your potential clientele, your client base. Does this make sense? Do you understand this? This is very important to understand because it will flip on its head, and a lot of things we'll talk about here will flip on its head most people's intuitive understanding of the business world. It does not work quite the way you think. A friend of mine is a consultant, and he was consulting for a company that licensed out a particular product for the building industry. He did some research for them. They had license holders in ponds where there's no competition, and they had license holders in ponds with heavy competition. Not just some, but heavy. Which of the businesses do you think were the most lucrative? The ones with the heavy competition. Because all the other people who didn't have license for that particular product, who'd like use knockoff copies, were creating hype about this idea. People that even know they should use this stuff suddenly hear about it, and where they're going to go? To the number one guy, the one who invented it in the first place. It actually increases your business to have more people in your area, especially if you are skilled. How many of you have trained with me before? Conversational hypnotherapy, something like that, right? You are now the top dog in your field. There are very few people that have the kind of skill you have. And I'm not saying that out of any kind of arrogance. There are some great hypnotists out there who have not trained with me, so, take that with a little bit of a pinch of salt. But if you have seen what the average hypnotherapist out there can do, you are beyond that. So the more competition you have, just say, bring it on. Because it will increase your potential client base exponentially. Does this make sense to you guys? This is kind of what Joe was talking about. Please carry on. Or shall I carry on?
Carry on.
I'll carry on then, shall I?
Made my point well, thank you.
Thank you. We're linked, you see. There's another thing which is related to this idea of adult learning, and something that you're going to be responsible for in terms of this training. If you recall at the start of today, I mentioned that you're going to go through a roller coaster of emotions. There'll be a lot of tools that we'll present to you, which initially will seem ambiguous, you can't quite get your head around it, and as a result of you not quite understanding the tool fully the first time round, you may feel certain emotions, frustration, anger, upset. These are things that we tend to have when faced with ambiguity or lack of clarity initially. And it's something we need to learn to get past if we're going to be successful. Does that make sense to you guys? I want you to expect that roller coaster of emotions. And if at any point you start feeling a little bit emotionally imbalanced, own it. Don't try and reject it. Don't go like, oh, I'm going to power through this. And don't just start blaming the person next to you. It must be your fault because you're wearing sunglasses and that disturbed me and I must have not, the sunshine glinted off it and I couldn't see my notes and now I don't understand anything. It's your fault, right? It is also a temptation for us to project our problems to other people, right? Please do not do that. If you find that frustration, just pause a moment, make a mental note of it, make a mental note of what it is where that frustration arose, and then resolve to master that. You see, the chances are the reason you're frustrated by something is because there is a process that maybe has 10 steps in it, and you can't get past step 3 because you haven't, there's some of these tools, especially with more of the online tools and so on, you need to actually do them to get past step 3 to know what step 4 will look like. Does that kind of make sense to you guys? As human beings, unless anyone here has any sort of demigod potential inside them, we cannot predict the future. And even our best attempts to predict the future start crumbling after 2 or 3 steps. Does that make sense? Because we don't know what's going to happen. Now, there are some things you can predict the future of, for. Those are the things you have enough experience in the past to reflect backwards and project that forward, right? How many of you are competent hypnotherapists, have seen enough clients that you trust your own skill, right? Now, a new client comes in, you don't start going like, oh, what would I do? Oh my God, this new client coming. You don't do that, do you? Because you have enough experience of success to know that no matter what comes up, you'll figure a way through it. Wouldn't that be fair? Now, I realize there's some amongst you who have less experience or maybe no experience in hypnotherapy, so you'll get that after this program. Would that be fair to say? There's some people like that in this room? And when you think about your first client or your first few clients, maybe you had a few already, you do get that like, oh, what do I do? What do I say? I've got a new client and they've got this problem and I don't really know what to do yet. Would that be fair to say yes? What you are experiencing is a desire to predict a situation that you have no experience of. How can you do that? That is when Joe's comment of having a high tolerance for ambiguity becomes important. Would you like to know a simple method for overcoming that? I say it's simple, but it's not necessarily easy to implement. Do you understand the difference, yes? Would you all like a simple method that will overcome that for you? The method's very simple.
I'll get out of the way again.
Thank you. You begin with a shiny, happy, drug-induced goal. Drugs are optional. And you know that you're over here, and this whole thing here is time. Yeah? You're here, your goal is over here somewhere. Now this could be a large goal, like having a 6-figure business. This could be a smaller goal, like mastering email, right? You do not need to know how to fill this gap. All you need to know is how do you take the first step? What is the next step in this action sequence? Now, that first step might be to watch an online tutorial about it. It might be to ask a friend who knows about this, right? Just a small little step in the right direction. Now, let's do an experiment with this. Can we do that? Those of you who are less experienced hypnotherapists, could you put your hands up again? So, you think about a client coming in, and you can think of a shiny, happy goal, which is the client goes out happy, having resolved the problem. Would that be fair to say? Can you all think of that right now? Does that feel good? Right? Now, chances are, if you think about how you're going to achieve that, you have no idea right now, right? Would that be fair to say also? So you drop this middle portion out. That's stuff that your unconscious mind will fill in for you in time. Now, think about what is the very first thing that you can do with that client that you know you absolutely can do that will take them in the direction of this. Something real simple. Can you ask them, for example, what their goal might be, what they want as a result of the session? Can you do that? Can you maybe ask them to close their eyes and open their mind a little bit to possibilities? Can you do that, something like that? Maybe a light little trance induction. Nothing in terms of the change yet, just getting the ball rolling. Can you all do that, yes? And when you think about that, you can have confidence about that, can you not? Those are the only steps that you need to have in your mind. Where do I want to end up? And how do I begin? What is the next step I need to take? And do you notice how just thinking in those terms and allowing yourself to trust your unconscious mind for the bit in the middle takes care of the fear, the frustration, the sense of anxiety that you might otherwise have had? Would that be fair to say this is an experiment, a thought experiment for you guys? Is that something that is actually happening to you right now in terms of your experience? Yes? I would like to invite you once again to really memorize this as a strategy that will get you through this training. Because you will go through an emotional roller coaster here and in preparation of what happens out there, because out there, it's even worse than in here. I promise you that. It's worse, but it's better. Because you'll have your lowest lows, but you'll get your highest highs. When you hit a low, remember this. Chances are, like when you hit a low, can I just have a red pen? Is there one there? If you ever hit a low, it's because you're trying to fill in this. and you don't have the future in front of you yet to do that. Does that make sense? So don't try to do too much. Just one step at a time. And if it takes you twice as long as the person next to you, who cares? If I could guarantee all of you here right now that 12 months from now, you're earning a decent six-figure income, who would like that? Anyone? Just a few people? Now, what if I took one person aside, I guarantee, I make you that same guarantee, took one person aside, I can get them to a seven-figure income in 1 month. How do you feel about that now? About that person compared to you just doing it in 12 months and getting less? Now, some of you might be, yeah, pick me, I like that.
Yeah.
Now, this is an important point here. If you compare yourself to the wrong thing, you will feel bad about a great achievement. Because a six-figure income in 12 months' time is a great thing, isn't it? Yeah. But if you start thinking, but no, it's not fair. That person got it in a month, and he got 10 times as much as me. This sucks. You're comparing yourself to the wrong result. Please remember, the results of others are unimportant. What matters is, what do you want? And what are you doing to get that? Each environment will be different. Some things will be easier in some environments, some things will be harder. Some things won't work at all. There's enough redundancy built into this system that you can play around with that, right? But do not compare your results to the perceived results of others around you, because the only place that can lead is pain, suffering, and frustration. And that is no use to anyone. Does that make sense? So begin with a shiny, happy goal in mind. We all have one. Yes? Hands up if you have a goal in mind of something you want to achieve, something concrete as a result of this seminar. Now, if I can hallucinate a little bit what's going on in there, it would be to have your own private therapy practice, whether it's in your home or somewhere else. You see enough clients that it's satisfying. You have enough other things going on that you have a decent income, maybe high 5 figures income is enough for you, maybe 6 figures. Think also about how much free time you want to have, how much time you want in your business and out of your business and so on, right? And if you get that, you'd be happy, wouldn't you? It's irrelevant if other people get more than you, because you get what you want. It's important you keep your eye fixed on that prize. And just like this, once again, you drop out all the stuff in the middle. We'll give you a roadmap for this, by the way. And you only focus on what is the next thing I need to do right now. Is this making sense to everyone here? And why we're talking about that, why we're emphasizing this? This is a really important thing. How many of you have tried to run your own business and failed? Anyone? I know it's a little bit more of an emotional thing to go through there. Would it be fair to say that one of the key reasons for that happening was because you were living mostly in here? Would that be fair to say? Avoid that at all costs. You live here with a vision to this, and you constantly bounce between these two until this little man, you know those little flick books you get like little kids where you flick the corner out? That's what this journey looks like. Each step of the way, you get another happy camper getting closer and closer. So this little red line here shrinks over time. Eventually, this little guy here will be sitting smack bang in the middle of the sun going like, oh, it's kind of warm in here, and I like it. But you cannot predict this journey. We'll give you a roadmap, but each one of you will vary. You'll have to go a little bit left, a little detour on the right, get a bit lost along the ways. A good friend of mine actually is in this room. I'm sure he'll identify himself during the break. Whenever he turns up in a new city, does something I think very, very charming. The first things he feels he needs to do is get totally and utterly lost. And he'll wander around until he finds his way again. And then he feels like he's at home, I guess, or in the right environment and so on. You will be lost. If you can have enough tolerance of ambiguity, you will get to whatever semblance of an outcome you wanted, whether it's by the road that you designed for yourself or a better road that arises as a result of what you're doing. Does this make sense to you guys? Now, you may have noticed I'm kind of belaboring a point here, aren't I? I'm kind of getting a little bit, almost like, come on, get on with this already. I get it. Do you think there might be a reason why I'm spending so much time on this? This is a very important part of your journey because, believe it or not, The reason why most people fail in business is not that the economy is bad, or that they have no business skills, although that's, of course, that they're doing the wrong behaviors is part of it. The real reason they fail is because their emotions sabotage their ability to learn. Because the know-how is out there. It may be scattered amongst 1,000 different books and videos and people's experiences and people that you know and so on. You will have to dig through a lot of mud to get the gold. Here, we've polished it up for you. We spent literally 2 months polishing each little nugget so it gleams for you, so it's obvious for you, right? So the only reason why people fail is because their emotions get in the way and they no longer feel resourceful enough to learn what they need to learn in order to succeed. So what do? You stop it. Right? Is there something you want to add to that?
That's good. I like that. And, you know, not to continually beat a dead horse, but
just a little more.
You know, the last whip. In my lifetime of, or I guess in my career, I've had businesses that have succeeded well in a very short amount of time. I've had businesses that have completely and utterly failed, and oftentimes there is a huge element of luck involved. So, you know, like we said, we can pretty much get dropped into anywhere, anytime, and make a successful business. But there is a nice element of luck there that's going to make a lot of things easy and a lot of things hard. You're going to meet the right person at the right time. You're going to meet the wrong person, and you're going to spend a whole bunch of time on them and completely fritter away time that you could have been spending with somebody else. But do not worry. Perseverance will get you through those times. And as we've said, we streamlined this enough and built in enough redundancy in all the things that we can have you do that's going to have you meeting those right people, that's going to have you succeeding more often than not, hopefully.
Just to add something a little to this point, because this is really important. Luck seems a little unfair, doesn't it? Why should some people have luck and I'm stuck with the bad luck? And that's going back to what we talked about before. What are you comparing yourself to? Let me put it this way to you. Would it be fair to say that if you're playing, anyone you know what roulette is, you know, the roulette table with a little spinny ball and stuff like that, right? It's pretty much a game based on luck. Would that be fair to say, right? Unless you have some mega maths whiz who can instantly calculate the trajectory of the ball, the spin of the table, the weight and mass of the friction that's going on, so you can predict where it's going to land. Pretty unlikely, right? What if you had enough chips that you could spend an entire month betting on exactly the same number over and over and over and over again? It's still luck that's involved, isn't it? But at some point, your number will come up, will it not? It's just a question of when. And that's why you need to persevere. Now, the beauty about a business is the odds are much more in your favor than a casino. And all the stuff you do in between, the number not coming quite up yet, will prepare you. Think of it this way. What if each time you put in, let's say we choose number, I don't know, what's your favorite number? Anyone? Quickly. 17 black. Good number. Love it. Right? You stick your chip on 17 black. But what if, when the ball hits, you know, goes for a miss, instead of losing your chip, you put another chip on top of it? And it keeps doubling up, so that by the time your number actually comes up, you now have a pile of chips there. That's what happens in business. All the stuff you do whilst you are failing will prepare you for succeeding big. Do you see where I'm going with this? If your attitude's in the right place. And that's why, I mean, you've seen, you know, us in terms of our company and how it's grown quickly and so on. What you haven't seen is the 5 years I messed up before. I had to mess up for those 5 years, so when the one chance meeting between my now business partner, Cliff, everyone, let's thank Cliff.
Hi,
Right?
Cliff.
Thank you, Cliff.
We love you.
That was a nice little golf clap there, thank you. I'm sure Cliff feels really happy right now. But the point is this, it took me 5 years of failing, so when the opportunity, the right one came up, and by the way, I've wasted a lot of time with other people and so on, that all this could happen. I know it can happen for you too, but you need the perseverance and the attitude. We can give you the game plan. We cannot give you the internals. Does that make sense, everyone? Do you get a good sense of where we're going with this? Because when you start to think about your own life, really consider
Inside.
all the things you've done, all
Already.
the things you've achieved, all the things you could do, all the things you've managed to do now that you couldn't do then.
That's right.
What's changed? If not, your ability to learn. There are things every person in this room can do that people out there wish they could. You all speak English. And there are people struggling and wishing they could have eloquence with a language that you do. How did you learn that?
You don't know.
How many mistakes did you make? What kept you going
Perseverance.
when things weren't working out at first?
All you have to do is just keep going.
Now, if there was one thing you looked for inside,
What would that be?
that could help you now, finding a resource, the one thing unique to you,
That's only everything that you need.
to keep you going,
As long as it takes.
far and beyond all the problems and hurdles that can come up in life.
Because when you have the goal in mind,
What would that be?
who will you become?
And you've all had dreams, sleeping comfortably at night,
When you have that goal,
where you can be anything, do anything, go anywhere,
who will you be?
and you don't choose your dreams. They choose you. And things happen in that dream time. Connect up
Inside.
for you.
Everywhere.
So that things that were unknown,
Become clear
and you can use that.
now.
If you were to have a dream right now,
What would that look like? What would it feel like?
and what would you be connecting up inside
And out.
to prepare you for a wonderful journey to a place of success? You can consider that, can you not? What an interesting idea to have a dream that takes you beyond who you have been into what's coming.
To places that you can't even imagine yet.
But you can enjoy that process of discovery.
Step by step.
And who hasn't had a dream that surprised them?
Day by day.
Pleasant surprises can only come
when you're ready.
When you don't know what's going to happen next. Wouldn't be much of a surprise if you did, would it? So when you're in the middle of not knowing,
find yourself
remembering that dream
inside
to know enough to take just one step in the direction you need to go.
Over there.
And you can all do that, can you not? Think of one step, I mean. Has anyone here got children? Do they like story time? Does anyone here remember being a child? Just checking. Does anyone here ever been a child? Or did you pop out fully formed? Did anyone here enjoy story time when you were a kid? Can we have you on there? Once upon a time, in a country far, far away, a wonderful land of rivers and lakes, a man called Johnny decided that he is going to be the best painter in the land. He was fascinated with sculptures and portraits, and he taught himself how to paint. He was a self-made man. And one day he says to his dad, "Papa, I'm going to the big wide world. I'm going to make it as a portrait painter." Before he leaves his father, knowing what the world is like, said, "Well, when you go out there, I'd like you to take with you this little lamp. It's an old family heirloom. And it comes from your uncle Alibaba, or Aladdin." And when you're in the big wide world out there, and you kind of get lost, I want you to rub this lamp, because it'll help you find your way. So our Johnny goes into the woods, and he's in the middle of nowhere, and he decides, well, I'm pretty much lost right now. I'm going to consult the lamp. He rubs the lamp, and out pops, that's right, a little genie. This is the business guru. And he says, "Oh, business guru, I want to be the greatest portrait painter in the land. The problem is, I have no clue of where to start. Please help me." The business guru says, "You are wise for asking some advice here. I happen to know this area very well. What I want you to do is pick a place to have your office." Now, normally, you want to think about it carefully. So for now, I'd like you to build your office just around the corner, right about there. Because once you've built this office, once you have a place that you can do your work, you have a very important task ahead of you. You must, a little bit ahead of there. Ooh, there you go. There we go. You must travel east. And you will find the marshes. Now, most people find the marshes smelly, horrible places, and they don't want to go through the marshes. But if you're willing to persevere, perhaps, and work your way through these marshes, you'll discover, oh, the marshes were there. There we go, thank you. You'll discover some very interesting things. The first thing you'll discover is that these marshlands are nowhere near as unpleasant as most people think. It's teeming with life. People get lost in these marshes only because they don't understand that they can read the natural signals and work their way through. Yes, it takes time. once you've worked your way through these marshes, you'll discover something of great importance in your ambition to become the land's greatest portrait painter and successful and get lots of money, which is always good. So little Johnny heads on out into the marshes, and he spends a day in it, 2, 3. It's sweaty and it's horrible, and there's mosquitoes and there's bugs and there's little things that go plop. There are. But after a few days, he starts to realize there's a rhythm here. There's something recognizable here. And soon, he starts to learn the signposts of the marshes. He starts to separate the quicksand from the firm road. He knows how to navigate through them. And just when he's starting to get the hang of it, starting to enjoy himself, he pops out the other side. And what does he find? That's right. There's a village. And it's full of villagers going about their daily business. Now, luckily, or maybe unluckily, Johnny just spent the last week or so in the marshes, so he smells a little bit. So he's not quite ready to meet the villagers. But luckily, he's all blacked out, kind of like a covert ops guy, because he's been crawling through the mud. So he hides behind one of the bushes, and he watches the villagers coming and going, chatting to each other. After a few days, he feels like they're his best friends. He knows them inside out. He knows who they are and what they do, what they care about, what their problems are, what makes them happy, what their dreams and ambitions are. He knows them inside out. And then he starts to discover something. Go ahead. Next one. He realizes that every day, these villagers are going somewhere across the mountains. He decides to follow them. And he finds out some make the trip once a week, maybe twice a week. And they all go to these little farmers markets to buy their supplies. They'll go vegetables and meat and eggs and the kind of stuff you buy in a farmer's market. And he watches this coming and going. And he has a brilliant idea. You see, he wants to be the best portrait painter in the land. He knows he has enough, self-belief that he knows that he's a pretty good portrait painter. But to be the best, he needs clients, doesn't he? And here they all are. Every day, they're going to the farmers' markets, and they're all gathering together. So little Johnny comes up with a blinding idea. What if I talk to the farmers that run the markets? What if I offer to do these little caricature sketches that artists do on the streets and little fun building sketches and so on? What if I do a little song and dance for them to entertain the crowd whilst they go around shopping? It's good for business, for them. But it's good for Johnny as well, isn't it? Because if someone likes his little sketch, says, what else can you do? Well, maybe they'll just follow him back to his hut, get a little portrait done. He gets his first commission. And that would be good, wouldn't it? So off he goes and chats to the farmers. And they say, yes, we like the cut of your jib. It's an old-fashioned statement. This is an old world. Though we are mixing metaphors because that's a sailing metaphor. I like the cut of your jib. Come on in. Yes, do this. So in goes Johnny. He does his song and dance. People love him. They're getting up. Standing ovations are not optional. They love him. And a few people even hang around after and say, what else can you do? He goes, well, I do portraits. And they go, oh, that's amazing. I want one of those. I've always wanted to have my little hovel look like a lordly mansion. And of course, a portrait does that. So out they come. But then they see the river and they go, well, where's the bridge? Oh, no, we wade through the river. Well, I'm not doing that. Oh, I like the picture, but not that much. So he loses his first clients and Johnny's mortified. So he thinks, and he thinks, and he thinks some more. And rather than give up, what does he do? He perseveres, right? And he builds himself a road all the way from his hut to the farmer's market. This time when he does his song and dance, and they all come, full of jubilation, and they see the road, they go, hallelujah, this looks like a nice road. We can take a little walk. They come back, he paints a picture, gets some cash. He's a happy boy. So he does this for a little while. And he starts thinking, you know, this is all well and good, but every day I'm going up to the farmer's market and doing my song and dance. I get a bit tired. Then they all come back again. I'm spending the rest of my daylight hours painting pictures. By the end of the day, I am exhausted. There must be something I can do here. So off he goes to the genie and consults the business guru once again and says, tell me, what can I do? I'm kind of running myself ragged here. It's working, but there's got to be a better way. So the business guru just whispers in his ear. And Johnny's eyes light up and he goes, that is blinding. I like that. So what does he do? Joe? That's right. He builds a little table full of gifts. And next to it, he ties a little velvet rope. You know, like those little displays you have in high-end malls? And outside the farmer's market, he puts a little velvet rope and puts a little sign up so people can gather there. So he does his song and dance, people love it, and at the end of it he says, by the way, folks, I've got some gifts for you guys. If you want to line up here, I'll collect you all next Monday. We'll go on down. You can have a gift. It's on me. Like it or leave it. I'm not going to give you any hassle, but it's free. And who doesn't like free? So they all start gathering up, and he comes in just once a week now, gathers them all up, comes up back to the house. They pick up a gift. Some stay, some go, but more than enough stay to keep him busy for the next few days. Now the cash starts rolling in. Johnny is a happy man. Things are really working out for him. He's starting to feel like a real business owner. Then one day, he's traveling up on the highway with, his flock of fans following behind. And over to the left, down towards the east, he spots something. And he asks them, what's this? These curious tents with banners flying in the air. And all these adoring peasants hanging out with waving different colored banners going, this rocks. He goes, what is that? So one of the villagers says, that's a tournament. The mightiest princes of the land gather here every week to break wooden sticks on each other, and somehow that makes them cooler. It's true. But the interesting thing is, the villagers love this stuff. Each one has their favorite prince, and they've got their colors tattooed across their faces, and they're going, go prince! So Johnny has an idea. What if I talk to the princes the way I talk to the farmers? The villagers love these princes so much, maybe they'll be able to just send some my way. I won't even have to do a song and dance. So he goes and chats to the princes, does a song and dance for the princes to get them really excited. And they go, wow, this is great, because I've got one of those portraits on my family wall, and yours rock. Yeah, I'd like my peasant village people to have some of those things too, so they can feel like they have some history, just like I do. Yes, we'll send some people your way, but this time Johnny's clever. What he does is, makes the deal, and there you go. He builds the road first, because he's learned from his mistakes, hasn't he? He builds the roads and the velvet ropes. The gifts are already there, are they not? And now, the princes just start piling in the villagers, and they start moving right up to his hut. He now has so much traffic. It's like, wow, this is great. He's a happy man. He has more clients than he can deal with. And this is where he has a problem. You see, there's only so many hours of daylight in a day. You've noticed this, haven't you? It's like an economy light bulb. Eventually, just fade, and you have to get a new one, right? I think they call it night. Johnny can only paint during the day. And it takes him about an hour to draw each portrait, which means he can really only see 8 people in a day, and he's done. But now he's getting so many people coming to his hut. He's got to turn people away, and that sucks. He's not a happy boy, because he's gone through so much effort to set all this stuff up. He now has to turn people away. It's kind of good, but it's kind of bad, isn't it? So he's all conflicted. He goes to this business guru and says, what can I do about this? You have this problem. Of course, the first thing the business guru does is he laughs, one of these big, hearty belly laughs. And once the tears have stopped rolling, he says, you're in a great place. What you have is called a high-quality problem. It's the kind of problem most painters wish they had. more clients they didn't know what to do with, right? I have a little secret for you. He whispers in his ears again. His eyes flash open and go, oh, that's great. So what does he do? He builds himself a little gift shop. There's a little gift shop. And he gets a whole bunch of little helpers to paint little landscapes and little portraits of famous people and so on. So those people who cannot stay for a portrait go browsing through the gift shop and they'll pick up a little something for the kids, you know? Now more people are sticking around. He hires the little fat man with a bell. It's a town crier. Oh yay, come listen. So all the people that come pouring through now have someone to ask all their questions to, like, oh, how much is this? What do I do here? What's going on here? Well, there's a bit of a crowd here. I just follow along. What's going on? So he spends his day telling people, answering their questions, whilst Johnny spends his day painting portraits, whilst he hires a little kid to go in the gift shop and take cash for all those gifts people are buying. Johnny has more than doubled his income, and he is a very happy man. Yet the princes keep sending him villagers. He keeps going for the song and dance for the farmers' markets because he's in demand. They love him. So people are pouring through to his hut, and despite his best effort, the gifts are being bought, the portraits are being bought, but people are still being turned away. They're still leaving empty-handed. And Johnny doesn't like this. So where does he go? Back to the guru. And says, oh, great guru, who is full of sage advice. Your idea was great, but come on, you got a little more, don't you? As it happens, I do. He whispers in his ears, those eyes flash open, he goes, that's great. And instantly he goes back, and what does he build? A little schoolhouse. You see, in the evenings, when he's finished doing the portraits, he invites all the people to stick around, and all can gather in the hall. And he'll draw a group portrait. So everyone can have a little something to take home. And they all kind of love it. It's a fun experience. It's like a group photograph, but in the early days, you know? And then Johnny has an idea all of his own, because he's gone through his effort to build this hall, which is empty, during most of the day because he's busy painting his pictures. So he has his genius idea. Go ahead. He's going to convert the schoolhouse into a schoolhouse. So once a month, once every couple of months, rather than painting portraits all day, he invites other people back, those that didn't want the portrait, who didn't want the evening class, who didn't want the gift shop, or maybe those who did. He says, I've got this great idea. Come down to my schoolhouse. I'm going to fill it with mirrors. I'm going to teach you how to paint your own portrait by looking in the mirror. That'll be you, just in case you were wondering. And people love this idea. He spends all day teaching them how to do portraits, self-portraits, using mirrors. And now the money is just flowing because he's getting cash just for the schoolhouse, from the evening classes, from the shop, from doing the portraits. He's a busy man and he's loving every second of it. Things are going great. Then one day, someone goes by us and say, you know, I'm a trader. I travel the lands, the whole kingdom, every day. And I don't know if you know this, but just outside of town, there's the main highways. There's the King's Road, there's the North Road and the West Road. And I travel these pretty much every day in my business. And you should know, there are so many people on these roads, and I've even heard some saying, you know, they'd be interested in some kind of a family portrait type thing because, you know, they want to be like princes. They have so much money now. They feel like princes, but they don't quite have the history, so they need someone to give them a sense of history. I have a feeling you'd find some real value there. So Johnny goes, that's great. He checks out the King's Road, and he notices there are these big fields all around the roads. So he goes up to the farmers who owns them and says, hey guys, can I hang up my shingle on these roads, let people know about what I do, and I'll give you some cash for it. And they go, what a good idea. Free money as far as they're concerned. So up he puts his signs, and people start pouring through his door. Now He gets people from the farmer's market for his song and dance every week. He gets people from the princes who just love him and adore him and just line him up and send him out. And now a whole drove of people are coming from the King's Highway who see these big, beautiful, bold shingles with all his details on it, and they come to check him out too. The town cries, ringing his bell, telling them all about, answering all their questions, and they're browsing the gift shop. Some are hanging out for the evening classes. Some come back a few months later for the self-portrait because they love the idea. Others stick around for the exclusive, so actual portrait from the master, because now he's a recognized man. If you have to wait a month to see him and get a portrait done, doesn't that elevate him? Does not make him one of the best painters in the land? So he's having a great time until he discovers one day, the guy comes back and says, you know, your portraits are great. And every time I travel one of the highways, one of the King's highways, people are so excited by you, I'm sure they're coming to you in droves. But the weird thing is, on the other highway, they're all looking at it going like, what is this guy? I don't really care about it. It's just a very strange bunch. The only problem is, I can't remember which highway is which. They all look the same to me. Right? One King's highway is the same as the other. So what Johnny has to do is to hire a tracker. The tracker is going to go all around the highways and all the other byways. And he's going to start secretly following them and find out who is actually following him back to the hut, who's actually coming to Johnny's place. And he discovers that one of the highways, people really aren't responding. So what does he do? Instead of wasting his money, he takes away the sign, like this. Magic. Why pay for something that's not working, right? But he can't know until the tracker's tracked. That's part of the tracker's job, isn't it? So now, here's Johnny, and he is the busiest painter in the land. He has his shop. He has his evening classes. He has his seminars for self-portraits. He has the portraits which are now getting so exclusive that really, you know, his prices have to go up because there's just too many people, he can't paint them all. He's a very happy man. The problem is right now, he's thinking to himself, I'm working really hard to do all these things. There must be a better way. So goes the genie once again, the business guru, rubs the magic lamp out, he pops, and says, look, this is all working great. I am probably the best painter in the land, if only based on finances. And I'm working really hard on all these things. There must be a better way. I don't want to lose what I have, but if I keep working at this rate, then I'll end up hating what I do, and I don't want to do that either. Do you have a solution for me? He goes, that's how I do. What you need to learn is how to systemize everything. Create a system. Build up a little thing around yourself. And Johnny goes, what do you mean? What is a system? What is that? So the guru says, just spends a nice hour, 2 hours just outlining all the different things, and he's furiously taking notes. At the end of it all, little Johnny looks at his list and goes, oh my God, there's so much stuff for me to remember. How am I going to remember all this? So the business guru smiles, nods his head and goes, once upon a time, in a country far, far away, there's a little man called Johnny, who's a great painter. Who here would like to replicate Johnny's success? Anyone? You now have, believe it or not, the roadmap that we'll be filling in over the next 5 days. However, I can only give you the map. It's a nice map, isn't it? I can only give you the map. Joe can only give you the map. We can only put signposts on there to let you know which direction to go when things happen. We cannot walk the road for you. That's up to you guys. Now, the good news is, you only have to do it one step at a time. We'd like to have an example of a very simple step you can do. Let me put it this way. You know one of the most important things the business can have, in terms of business, it's having the right network, knowing the right people to help them at the right times and so on. You see what I mean? Your network is partly your client list, it's partly your colleagues, and so on. Now, if you were to take one simple step to building a network, what might that be? Anyone? Meeting people, right. Are you near people right now? Yes. What if you turned to the next person next to you and said hello? Wouldn't that be the start of a little network happening? Let's try it out. Just quickly, just say hi. Was that so hard, folks? Let me ask you, was this challenging? Was this difficult? A little bit, yeah. So everything we're going to do is going to be of a similar proportion, and then we're going to kind of build up. Because saying hi to the person next to you, that's a breeze, isn't it? The interesting part is, how many people can you say hi to across the Atlantic and really create connections? Now, the best way to do that is if you come with something to offer. So in a moment, what I'm going to ask you guys to do is stand up, walk around the room, and meet as many people as possible, especially across the Atlantic. You can introduce yourself, say who you are, what you do, why you're here. You know, the kind of normal stuff people talk about. But here's the one thing I would like you to really focus on top of the normal meeting and greeting, which is an important part of any business culture, right? Here's the most important thing I would like you to focus on in that conversation, that little chat that you have. It's not about you. I would like you to ask them, about their dream, their aspiration. Specifically with a view to see if there's anything you have that could help them. Do you understand what I mean by this? So once, the only reason to say hi and my name's so-and-so and how are you doing and all the rest of all that sort of meeting and greet and let them know a little bit about you is purely so you can have that conversation where you find out enough about them to see if there is something that you have now or that you can find later that will help them in their dream, in their goal. Does that make sense to you guys? If you can do that, you will have, I was going to say, a golden network, but actually we're going to go to platinum, or what's more than platinum?
Diamond?
Diamond, di-platinum, di-platinum. But you get what I'm talking about this, right? Now, the nature of business, of course, is, you know, time is money, people are in a hurry, so you won't have that much time to do this all. So, to make things rather interesting for you guys, you will have, we've got a decent amount of people in the room, so you're going to have about 6 minutes to build as large a business network as possible. That means you've got to press the flesh, and remember, handshakes, just in case you're misunderstanding that one. That means you've got to meet as many different people as possible in those 6 minutes, and importantly, try and drill into what is the one thing that you could do for them.
Who is another person you know?
Someone you know, something you know about. Maybe you know about an article or something like that. Can you drill to that in seconds so you can get on to the next person? It's a skill. Who's up for that challenge? Anyone? Off you go. 6 minutes is starting. How did you feel when someone asked you about your dream, your aspiration, especially when they thought, oh, you know, I have something I could help you with that? How do you feel at that point? Anyone? Go ahead. Excellent. You've made a contact that's perfect for what you need? Exactly what he wants. And how do you make you feel about that contact? Can I bring a mic? James, could you bring a mic forward? Put it on the table over there. How did you feel about the person who's that spot-on contact you just found? Is it on?
I personally believe there's no coincidence in life anyway. It's also why I'm here. Half of why I'm here is for what you guys are saying. The other half of why I'm here is for what everybody else has got to offer. And resonance was probably the main word. There was a resonance in both our stories where they matched, and we both had what the other half wants right now to move us to the next stage.
And did you feel energized by that? Would it be fair to say?
Very much so.
Right?
Much so.
That's how it works, folks. And it's pretty easy to do this, isn't it? If you keep your mind in the right place. Right? Now, we're going to invite you to, did all you have a similar experience, something that approximates that, right? More or less to a degree? Thank you. Right? I want you to store that idea, that experience in your back of your mind, because we'll show you what to do with this very shortly. Right? It's an important step. Let's put it this way. The person who has something to offer, you feel good about them, do you not? If they were running a business doing just that thing that you need from them, what are the chances, based on that genuine little conversation that you had just now, that you'd be quite interested in following up with them to see if you could hire them to do whatever it is that they could do for you. Would it be fair to say it's relatively high, right? And that's after what? A 60-second conversation of that, right? So there's something important going on here when someone's actually paying attention to what you want, what you need, and what you desire. Isn't that fair to say? Yes? This is the feedback point, folks. Yes? So who here would be interested in a little method, a simple method, that will allow you to get inside your ideal client's head in the same way as this other person just did with you, so that that client can feel as good about you as you felt about that person? Who would like to have something like that, a little tool, right? Now, I warn you, the marshes, which is what we'll go into, is a place that a lot of people find smelly, but it's not. It's actually a great place once you know your way around. And there are lots of different paths you can take in these marshes. We're just going to show you the simplest, quickest route through. This does not mean that there are not other ways you can get through the marshes. Does that make sense to you guys? Yes, sir.
I'm from Denmark and I'm not familiar.
A marsh is like a swamp or a... There you go. The swamps are... Yeah. But, so, there are many different paths. We're going to show you one way through that, a simple way. Some of you will already be very familiar with it. Just bear with us as we go along. Some of you will be very new to, which is great. The point, though, is if you actually do this, then those people you would like to have as your clients, as a hypnotherapist, will feel about you the way you just felt about that contact, that person you just met. And wouldn't you like to have that? Wouldn't that be useful as a business person? Yes?
Yes.
Very useful. So before we get to understanding our clients really, really well, I want to lay out a simple plan for you guys that's going to make, hopefully, 6 figures for you. Would you guys be interested in that?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, good. So I'm going to go over here real quick. So I call this the 100K plan.
Woo!
All right. So let's imagine, after we're here in the beautiful Bahamas, we go home and we begin to start our businesses. And the first thing we want to do is start to see some clients, right? Well, in the 100K plan, I'd like to get you about 5 clients a day, 3 days a week. So that's not too bad, right? And you can charge them about $100. Now, these numbers are going to vary for everyone, and that's okay. We're going to help you design your business in a way that fits with the time constraints you have, the life you want to lead, and everything else. But let's start here simply. 5 clients a day, 3 times a week. You've got 4 days off to do whatever you need to do. Business, marketing.
Swim in the ocean.
Swim in the ocean. So that'll net you, or that'll gross you, I should say, $1,500 a week. Next, what if you, remember when Johnny had his night classes, his school, what if you had a group of, let's say, 10 clients 3 nights a week that you could see? A couple of hours here and there. Doesn't have to be anything too elaborate. Would you guys like to know how to have that? Sounds pretty good, right? And let's charge them $10 every week, or every time they come in. So you're getting $300 a week out of that. Pretty easy, right? Now imagine you have a nice bunch of clients coming in, but you're running out of time in the day to be able to do some stuff. So what if we could teach you how to create some products? And I use CDs here because it's just one of the easiest products to make. You can just record your voice and simply sell what you have to offer and save yourself a ton of time and make, not some bad money. We got 5 CD sales a week at $20. You can make another $100 a week. Easy money. This is something you can sell to existing clients, to new clients, someone that just wants to even try you out. $20 is not that a lot of money for most people. They can just say, $20, I'll try this guy out, see what he likes, see what he's like, and see if I want to move forward. Maybe that'll become something that you can do a personal session for somebody, or paint a portrait, as Johnny would do. So if you multiply that by 50 weeks, I'm going to give you not only 4 days off a week, but also 2 weeks completely free of work. We're at $95,000 a year, so we haven't quite made it there yet. So what if we had a simple system for you guys? Something that you could do that would give you an extra little bump to get over that six-figure mark. Would that be useful? All right. So what if we did 3 simple one-day seminars a year? I'm talking about a year, not a week, not every month, just a year. 3 simple one-day seminars.
Something like self-hypnosis. Anyone here like hypnosis by any chance? Yes? That surprised me.
Do your clients like hypnosis?
Anyone here feel good when they're in hypnosis? Do you think people might want to be able to take that home? You know, like, oh, you know what, I fancy pizza. Do you do takeout? Don't want to come to the store tonight, right? This is like takeout hypnosis, right? Worth spending a day learning takeout hypnosis, isn't it?
So what would one day, an entire day's worth of your time be worth? It'd be worth a lot, right? You're charging, maybe $100 per client. You're seeing them in just 1 hour. You're giving these people a whole day's worth of value. Let's still charge them $100, but they get a whole day. So this is worth a lot to them, but you can charge a little because you're getting maybe 20 people in. That's pretty realistic for a good seminar. When you're beginning to start out. Yeah, we've got a lot of people here, but this is something you grow into. But at 20 people, it's pretty doable if you do it 3 times a year. I'm sure you could find 20 people in 3 or 4 months, right? Pretty easy? Good, so that's $6,000 extra. So we actually come up to $101,000 you're grossing a year. So would that be good for you guys?
That's about 3 people.
Yeah, so
How many, let's go back to like we started on earlier today. Who here actually wants a 6-figure income? Anyone? Right? Think about what Joe just showed you here. Does anything that Joe just showed you here, does anything here seem unreasonable? Right? Have we put any crazy numbers in this place? We could do. The seminar industry, you massage the figures a little bit, and suddenly, your potted plant is worth $2 million, right? Unless it's a plant of pot, in which case that's a different story, right? I apologize for anyone who's drug sensitive. So this is a plan to get to $100,000 a year, folks. You should be getting very excited because nothing you have seen right now seems particularly challenging, does it? Would that be fair to say? All you need is a little engine in the background to show you how to get the people and get them interested so you can plug the people into the right slots of that formula. Wouldn't that be fair to say? Yes. We want to keep things as simple as possible because then you can do stuff about it. Now, think of it like that, and the pretty realistic potential of making over $100,000 a year, who is excited about what their future holds right now? Anyone? During the break, you can all go up to Joe and thank him because this is what the next 5 days is going to show you how to do. And this is a very important thing. This will not happen by itself. You do realize this. Yes? And results will vary according to how much effort you will put in, how smart you will work through it, how you will work through the inevitable hurdles and problems on the ways. But this is what we want for you. Joe wants it and I want it. And it's as simple as possible so that it is attainable to you guys. Does that make sense to you guys? Do you guys have any questions or comments about this before we have a quick break?
Could you quickly show the previous 2 slides again?
Sure. Do you want to just, we'll go through the slides quickly again?
you want this slide?
Just go from the beginning and discuss.
So let's go from the beginning again.
Yeah.
All right? So the beginning we have 5 clients a day, 3 times a week. And we'll talk about an important principle of why I set these things up this way a little bit later. But keep it in the back of your minds of why only 3 days a week? Why not 5, 7 days a week? So we're still at $1,500 there a week. And then for 10 clients a night, 3 nights a week, again, just keep that question in the back of your mind. Why only 3 nights a week? Why not 5? Why not 7? or 8 if you can figure that out. If you can, call me. And why only $10? Why do you guys think? Introduction, right? It's pretty easy for somebody to spend $10 and come see you maybe for an hour at night after work.
It's like a mental yoga class, isn't it? You stretch out your mind a little bit, get rid of the mental, stretch rigidness and so on. Yeah, I'll pay $10 for that. It's like a nice nightcap before I go to bed, right?
And I'm sure you guys know a bunch of people that might be interested in something like that, right? Like a mind massage right before they get home.
Just to take up on Joe's point, right now, just everyone in the room, just as a little thought experiment, think about it. Who here thinks they could get just even close to 10 people that you already know right now to pay you $10 so that once a week they can come in for a little private session where you, as a group, do a little hypnosis thing with them so they can feel great, let go of all the pressures of the day, and maybe even specialize it a bit more towards what their needs are. We'll show you how later on. Who here right now thinks they already have enough people in their personal network, the people that they know, they could kind of start achieving that? Hands right up in the air, please. Right? So this is about 2/3 of the room, roughly, maybe? Would that be fair to say? So right now, you're already in the process of building a business. And the reason I'm kind of mentioning this right now is because I want you to think about this when we're presenting the tools to you. What can I do with this? How can I start doing this now? And for the rest of you who can't get close to this yet, ask yourself, what do you need to do to be in a position where you just have a circle of friends wide enough that might be interested in just this? Now, this itself will not make you rich. You realize that, right? But it's the mindset that does. How come, put your hands up again if you think you could do this. If you just left right now and did this and made a few extra bucks, you could do it straight away. Put your hands right up, right? Those of you whose hands, and please leave them up for a second. Those of you whose hands are not up yet, you should be looking around the room. Do you know why? Because we're about to go into a break. And when we go into that break, you want to corner these people and ask them, what are you doing? How did you build up enough friends to be able to do this with them? How do you think you will offer this to them so that they will want to do this? Does this make sense to you guys? And if you don't, then you're already starting, your attitude is in slightly the wrong place. You're pointing your feet down the wrong path. Does that make sense to you guys? So hands up again, those of you who are about to get bugged in the break. Do you mind, by the way, sharing some of that knowledge? Do you mind at all? The rest of you, look around and please bug them. Make your attitude do what you need it to do right now. This is where it begins. Do you understand why I'm belaboring this point, everyone? Yes? Yeah? There's one person in the background. Do you all understand this? Yes? Sorry, please carry on.
Yes. And I made this intentionally very low. Sell 5 CDs a week. This can be any number of things. And what I can promise you is that you will have the skills to be able to create high quality products. And CDs is just the name that I have here, but DVDs, CDs, whatever they happen to be. So if you have the skills this week to create something that you can sell at a low cost, but still a high, nice profit margin, would that be useful for you guys, right?
Yes.
Great. So you guys get those skills this week. And then with all those numbers added up, the weekly totals, times 50, because I do want to give you some time off.
To enjoy the beach in the Bahamas.
To enjoy the beach in the Bahamas or come to another seminar, get some skills for yourselves. We're at $95,000 a year. That's a very, very respectable income.
Who would feel unhappy about earning $95,000 a week, working on average, sorry, a week, yeah, a year, $95,000 a year, you see the comparison thing again, right? But here's the killer. You're essentially working 3 days a week, maybe an extra day actually doing extra stuff on top of that. Is that really so bad? No. Would you feel upset if that was your life, and you woke up tomorrow and this is the life you were leading? No. I would, because we're missing another $6,000. We've got to get to the six-figure income. Igor, we need to make happy. So we're going to add that $6,000 for you. A simple one-day seminar. Does that sound like it's out of reach for anybody at the moment? No? Actually, wow. Then you guys might as well just go home. Okay. Imagine if you guys had a framework to be able to talk about any subject for a whole day, barely preparing any notes,
just knowing the content that you have, knowing the expertise that you have in your life, in your practice, and being able to teach that to people in a whole day, not only where they are informed, but they come out transformed. That'd be useful too? Yes. Would you mind getting paid $6,000 to do that a couple times a year? Pretty easy, right? So we've got a 3-day, maybe 4 or 5 day, if you really want to work, pretty hard, work week. You've got a nice, comfortable income. You're sharing your knowledge. You're sharing your expertise with your community, and some of you with the world. And you're making a handsome living from that. Sounds pretty good, right? All right.
Well, if you want to find out a little more about how to do that, we're going to have a quick, it's like 10-minute break, if that's okay with you guys. Freshen up, get a tiny suntan and come back again. But the quicker, let's put it this way, the quicker you're back again after the break, the more we can actually share with you in terms of the content. Does that make sense to everyone? Yes. All right? Anyone here want more content rather than less? So the shorter you make the break, I will leave up to you guys. We'll start here again. What time is it right now?
I've got 10:53.
So it's 10:53. Let's be back here at 11:03, and we'll start a little bit after 11:05. Does that sound good to you guys? Off you go.